Welcome, everyone. I'm John Alden from This Week in Indiana Football, also the producer for Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. We just got done doing the podcast with Dustin Schutte. Unfortunately, Mitchell Paige wasn't able to join us then, but we've got him here now. He's fresh off the golf course. Mitchell Paige, how you doing, man?
What's going on, John? Good to be here. Sorry I couldn't be on earlier. No service out at the golf course today, but happy to be here now.
It's all good. So I heard you say a second ago, you just moved to South Carolina?
Yes, actually on Friday of last week. So like literally fresh, new South Carolina resident, moved to Charleston, loving the weather, loving the ocean.
So how much, I'm going to deviate a little bit from where I was starting with earlier. How much of Indiana have you been able to see so far this year? Have you watched both games?
Snap.
Every snap. So obviously there was a lot of hype going into the season. Indiana laid an egg against Iowa on the road. They come back. It seems like, they put on a really good show in front of what is probably the most impressive home crowd that Indiana has seen, at least since I've been alive. I was born in 1997, and I've been watching football since about the early 2010s. And I have never seen such a pro-Indiana crowd at the Idaho game. I saw a stat earlier today from some sort of Indiana Twitter account where it was comparing the 2019 game against Ohio State and this past game against Idaho, and there was 8 more fans at the game this past weekend. But the interesting factoid about that is the fact that when Indiana normally plays Ohio State, not most, but a decent chunk of those fans are from Columbus. And so it was really nice to see the fan base genuinely show out, and I'm sure that was cool for you to see as well, Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. Having some experience when the Buckeyes come to Bloomington. It's definitely a photo opportunity, or it was, for the athletic department, but there was some OHIO chants going around Memorial Stadium that I didn't love. So it was great to see a bunch of people in the stands. I'm sure it was loud there. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the building, but this week will be very interesting. There was still just a little bit of pocket up in the top corners. I bet those are full to the brim. And I think they've got some good momentum going into this game.
Yeah, and this non-conference matchup with Cincinnati, it is the highest ranked non-conference opponent that Indiana's played since I saw earlier. It was number 2 USC. I think it was back in the 60s. I don't know for sure. It was a really long time ago. Indiana normally doesn't schedule these kinds of non-conference matchups. So what does it mean, do you think, for this Indiana team in particular? Obviously, you want to win every game, and there's lots of expectations for this team right now. But with the way that the season started, that giant loss to Iowa, what do you think Indiana genuinely needs? Obviously, they want to win, but what is the best thing they would get out of this Cincinnati game, win or loss, you think?
Yeah, you have to show up. You got to show some fight. When they scheduled this game, the Cincinnati coach was, I think, Tommy Tuberville, who's now a U.S. Senator. So a little I don't think they foresaw this being what I think is a top 5, definitely top 10 team in the country. But it's a chance for individuals. This is a game that NFL scouts are going to watch. And as a team and as a program, you got to show up. You don't get chances like this very often, at least in recent years, for the past 40 years. It's a chance to show that Iowa's really tough, but so are we. And that's not the standard that we're going to play to all season. Because if they don't, there's a significant chance they could get steamrolled.
And you being a former wide receiver, there's been a lot of pressure on – I know Michael Penix isn't a wide receiver, but he's a quarterback. There's been a lot of pressure on the passing game in general. And through 2 games, it seems like it's been pretty it's not been horrible. Obviously, Iowa, it was absolutely horrible, but they were able to get back in a rhythm against Idaho. And they also put an emphasis on getting Stephen Carr some reps and trying to establish the run game, which they've struggled with over the past couple of years. But from your perspective as a former player and a former wide receiver, what do you think needs to happen for them to get back on their feet as a passing attack?
Yeah. First thing I want to say is I love the way that they just ran the ball, stuck to it against Idaho. We're bigger, more physical. Let us be bigger and more physical. I thought Stephen Carr ran really hard. Offensive line blocked the run really well.
Yeah.
They were okay blocking for the pass, and I think that gets Penix's feet a little happy. He's not like a natural drop back, set, and throw. So getting in a rhythm where he's comfortable standing in the pocket and doesn't have to worry about getting rocked from his blind side, like I think he did a couple times against Idaho, definitely against Iowa. Just being comfortable at quarterback allows you to be so much more accurate, and then just give our guys a chance. I mean, we've got all-American receivers. I think the young kids are growing up really quick. The touchdown throws that he had this last weekend were close, but not quite. Just let our big kids be big. Even if you underthrow them a little bit, let him go up and get it. I think he's been told that he has to be perfect or this or that, whatever it is, all off season, and even more than that, because he got hurt last year. He's just, this is the way we play. Whatever. Just let yourself be athletic and be the player that everybody knows that you can be. You don't have to be perfect. And I think there's just a little bit of pressure on him, and hopefully this last week he's take a deep breath. Okay, now let's roll.
I definitely think that in this game, Indiana's going to try to put the kind of pressure defensively, I guess, on Desmond Ridder the same way that Iowa was able to get at Michael Penix. And I really think with the fact that you've got a sold-out home crowd, they have a genuine opportunity to seize the moment early, much like the Hawkeyes did. I'm not saying they're gonna play the exact same style of football, because that's just not the way Indiana is necessarily. But I guess I'll just go back to you. What do you think the expectation is, or should be the expectations for this team as a whole, and moving, just going into the next game of the season?
Yeah. I'm going to focus on the defense because that's by far the strong point of the team. They were great on special teams this last weekend, but defense is what's going to make it go. And same way it did last year when they're creating takeaways and playing with a lot of energy, which they are right now. They haven't gotten the takeaways like they started to last year, but those are coming because they fly around and they pressure the quarterback. They come at you from all different ways. I really like they're letting Tywan Mullen just be on an island for 25% of the snaps. I think you let your good players, like I was saying with the offense, just let them be good players. You don't have to overcoach. We have a ton of talent on the team. Let them be the players that they are. For us to have a chance next week, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. You got to get Ridder out of the pocket, and you got to find a way to make big plays on defense, because that's the big part of our team. That's our best chance to keep the game close and eventually win.
Now, you mentioned special teams, and obviously 2 touchdowns from the special teams for the first time since Kentucky in '69. If I remember correctly, and I hope I'm not wrong about this, you were a return man whenever you for part of your time when you played in Indiana, right?
Yes, that's correct. Just punts, not kickoff return. I was too slow.
Okay, so yeah, and there we go. So I guess this comparison works. DJ Matthews, do you see some of yourself in him? I know you're not the exact same kind of player, but you're both really quick. I remember hearing the announcer on TV compare DJ Matthews to a water bug, just because he's able to just kind of get out. It's really hard to get a hold of, and that was obviously very evident with him getting into the end zone. But yeah, I really think that could be one of those things that is a difference. Not that he's going to get a punt return touchdown every time that he's given the ball, but I think he could be a difference maker, especially if the game's close.
Yeah. I think just watching him, I think he needs to adapt. He needs to get a little more physical. When he's running across the middle, kind of runs away from contact, similar to the way I did. And if I wanted to be a better player, I needed to get a little more physical. So that's why I feel comfortable saying that, is I watch him and see a lot of myself in there. But he's fast, and it looks like the guys love him, and he's fit into the team really well. I could say that about pretty much all of the transfers. Just a really good mesh with the rest of the guys, and it looks like they're having a lot of fun. And you're having fun, and you have as much ability as he does, he could absolutely be a big difference maker when he starts to get a little more game reps with Michael Penix and starts finding holes. He could really be a good outlet when the windows get tight as we get deeper into the Big Ten.
Another thing, too, about the transfers and the transfer portal. I don't know if Jim's ever asked you this before whenever you've been on his show since the whole transfer portal became a thing. But he's asked former players, whether it be basketball or football, if this option was available to them, if they would have taken it. I don't know what your perspective is on that. What would you, if you had an option? I don't know if there was ever a time? I know Kevin Wilson and that era, there were some ups and downs. Was there ever a time that you think of now that this is something that is in place? Do you think you would have ever considered putting your name in the transfer portal?
Not for football. There was not a lot of interest for 5'7", 165 pound.
And you received a walk-on scholarship, correct? Like you were a walk-on, and then you were given a scholarship.
Yeah, after my third season, I did for a very short period of time. I was talking to some coaches to play golf, but I would have never played football anywhere but Indiana. I loved it there. That's the only thing I wanted to do since I was a little kid, is be an athlete in Bloomington, Indiana. So I would never have considered going anywhere else.
Well, I'll ask you a couple more things before we wrap it up here. Obviously, we're 2 games into the season now, and it seems like overall the expectation seems to be a little bit different. Some of the more fragile portions of the fan base prior to the Idaho game thought that the season was a wash. Obviously, that's not the case. But prior to the season starting and then where we're at now, where do you think the sky is for Indiana? I mean, obviously, I think, in my opinion, they can be Big Ten East contenders. I don't want to sit there and say that they should be in the college football playoff conversation. That's something that comes when you've earned your way into that conversation, I think. But you being a former player, I'm sure you have a lot more. I don't know if you talk to current players or anything like that, or coaches and all that kind of stuff. But from somebody who's been on the inside once before, and you knowing what the culture is like now under Tom Allen, where do you think the ceiling is for this team?
Yeah, I'll be honest. After the first game, I'm not a fragile fan. I'm a diehard, and watching them get blitzed like that was a little scary. I was down. I was down, about as bad as I've been in a long time. It was a blitz, for lack of a better word. Never really had a chance, and that's scary. But
yeah,
the whole week, I'm just thinking. Whole week leading up to Idaho, you're thinking like, okay, let's just show some fight. Even if they would have just clawed out, Idaho wasn't great. You claw out like a 17 to 20 point win, but you show some fight. Okay, problem solved. But to come out and just put the pedal down against a Division I team, it's still Division I football. It's not like they're playing the Little Sisters of Poor. Like, these guys are on scholarship too, and you go out and dominate somebody like that. That means something. So it hopefully righted the ship a little bit. There's some tough games. The stretch coming up, I think Michigan State's fantastic. Maryland's better than anybody expected. Minnesota's interesting, but, I mean, you could potentially have 4 or 5 ranked teams in the next 6 games. So it's a tough stretch. If they can come out and win majority of them, that would be great. I think they're going to win them all. I don't think they get beat again, but maybe that's a little bit biased. And I think they're absolutely one of the best teams in the Big Ten once they get the ship righted a little bit. And this week will be a good indicator of where they are as a program and where they are as a team.
And that's the thing about Tom Allen. He has the expectation for so long, I feel like, with the players, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was that they were hoping to win the big games. And obviously I feel like that was a big narrative every season prior to last year when they defied all the odds. Now that they've done it, I feel like the players genuinely believe that they can win every single game. Will that happen? Who knows? They obviously lost their first one, but they definitely have the ability to compete with every single team on their schedule. And so it's been awesome to see the dynamic just over the course of Tom Allen being there, that players actually think and should think that they could win the Big Ten and even go further than that if they really perform the way they could.
Yeah. I'll say when I was there, I felt like we matched up against everybody, with the exception of maybe Wisconsin. Those guys, I don't know why they were just.
Did you play on the 83-20 team?
No, thank God.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, Wisconsin just, even the fans in the stands, like the offensive linemen's moms, were just too big. Like my dad tells a really funny story about being in a concession stand and all the offensive linemen's moms are getting hot dogs and huge things of beer, and they were like $8 just taller than my dad. So that's a funny story from him. But it just is we believed that we were going to win those games too, but we would find a way to lose, if that makes sense. Like, we'd be cruising, and then one bad play, one stupid mistake, and then the momentum completely changes. And the only thing that I think is different is when the time came to make the stupid play, they didn't.
Yeah.
And they found a way to win. They won the game when they should have won the game, as opposed to some stuff that I've been around where we should have won and we lost.
I think the biggest example, and I think you may have actually been a part of this team, was I think it was Minnesota at home, and I don't remember what year it was specifically. The backwards lateral play.
Oh my gosh.
That's the biggest example, I think, from at least your time of being there.
Thank you for not saying Michigan, because we threw the ball to me on the 4th down in the second overtime. Ugh, still haunts me to this day.
Now that game specifically, it was crazy because that was the only pass, I think, in like 17 plays before that were all runs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
So, but that was interesting. But so it's like you were saying, I don't remember if I cut you off or not. If I did, correct. No, you can finish up after. But like you said, all the dumb things are gone. And I think another one, and this wasn't a dumb mistake. It was just one of those, it's Indiana football. Of course it happens. But the kick against Duke also in the bowl game.
Yeah, it's just like stuff just happened, and we didn't understand it. Like, no one was trying to do all of this stuff, but last year's team, and I think even the team before that went and played in the Gator Bowl against Tennessee, they had some games where they should have lost or could have lost and didn't. And once you start doing that over a period of time, you start to learn how to win. And I think that's a big change in a program when teams and players and coaches learn how to win versus playing not to lose. And I think they're starting to learn that. And that's a really exciting place for a program to be, especially a program that we all love so much.
Well, heck yeah. And we're I don't want to keep you too much longer, Mitchell. I know we're recording this late. It's almost 9 o'clock when we're doing this. So before, I think I know who you're going to pick, but go ahead and tell me who you think is going to win this weekend and give me a score prediction if you have one.
Well, my heart and my head tell me two different things, but I'm only going to give you my heart's prediction.
That's
fine.
My
heart tells me that the Hoosiers win. It'll have to be low scoring, relatively low scoring, like a 27-21 type game. I think if they get in a shootout, I'm not sure we can keep up. Defense has to play really well and create some turnovers. 27-21 Hoosiers, my prediction.
27-21 Hoosiers, courtesy of former wide receiver Mitchell Paige. Thanks again, man. I appreciate you sticking with me through all of the connection issues we had early on and doing this, and I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Call me anytime, man. I'm happy to jump on.
We will, and hopefully we'll see an Indiana victory on Saturday. Thanks again for listening. Obviously, check in with Indiana Sports Beat tomorrow. Well, I guess when you see this, it'll be Tuesday. But either way, we're on Monday through Friday. Check out Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, 9 to 11 on YouTube. Also on our afternoon affiliates in Evansville and Marengo. And then every Monday, we got the podcast with Dustin Shooting. And obviously, he wishes he could be here, but he's got some stuff to take care of with what he's doing. So, again, thanks, Mitchell, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sean.